Well, welcome everyone. Welcome. I'm Debbie Nelson with Together SC, and I am delighted to see all of you today. It's been a while since we've had one of these learning together sessions, and I am so excited today to have a session and in a few minutes to introduce you to our speaker. I am just delighted. I'll give you a little background on our speaker in a few minutes, and that's why you're here. But I thought I'd take this opportunity while you're online, just to say thank you to two of my colleagues from Together SC who are on the line as well, my friend Ben Bullock. If you've been a part of it Together SC at any point in time, you know Ben. But our brand new administrative coordinator, Alex Taylor, is on the line today.
Hey everyone.
Yay, it's so good to have Alex here, and you're all going to just love working with her. So wanted to make sure you knew that they were on the line with us. I think maybe Alana's on the line too. Alana Jordan is our new development coordinator. I haven't, oh, there she is. She's waving. I don't know if anybody else from the team is on. Do you know, Ben? I think that's the folks.
I think that's all we've got for today.
Okay, well, great. Well, this is a team effort at Together SC, and we work closely together on behalf of you, our members, and we're just always glad to share this space with you. I thought I'd also take the opportunity to just highlight something that I'm really excited about, and that is our new peer networks. Hopefully you're reading our For Good Connections every 2 weeks. One came out this week. And in that communication, we're telling you a lot about these brand new peer networks. We have 6 new peer networks. Some of them are sort of new, not quite as new, but some are brand new. And the goal behind our peer networks is that you, as members of Together SC, whether you are a CEO, a development director, if you are someone that's working in operations, we have a place and space for you at Together SC. And we are doing this with networking events and professional development that dig deep into the work that you do within your organization. What I'd love for all of you on the line to do is make sure that you check out your member profile on the Together SC website. And in that, you can put up your picture, you can tell us a little bit about yourself, and you can select a peer network. 1, 2, you can pick up to 6 if you want to be in all 6, but pick a peer network. And that will ensure that we can communicate directly with you when we're doing events. And we have a variety of events. Even later today, we have our volunteer administrators, Spooktacular, which is one of our peer networks. So please look into, learn about, sign up for our peer networks. At our summit next March, we will have really in-depth workshops for each of these peer networks. So as I say that, that's just a little icing on the cake. It's not everything you can learn, but you can go to our website there in the main navigation, you can hit peer networks, and there's a drop down and lets you know what each of these networks is, who's leading it, and please sign up. You're gonna want this as a member benefit. So I'm gonna sing that song for as long as I can, but the more that you get engaged, the better. So thank you. So today we are here for Learning Together, and the idea about Learning Together is to feature information that is relevant to our nonprofit sector. And one of the things I like about this, we have consultants, we have a variety of people that have come in and helped lead these sessions. But today we actually have one of our very own, a CEO of one of our nonprofit member organizations. And this woman I've gotten to know over the last couple of years. Kabrina Bass is amazing. I think she's been in her role since 2018 at Midlands Mediation. And and they're an organization that's been around over 20 years at this point, but she joined their team as the leader a few years ago. So she's sort of a new leader, but I would say she doesn't feel at all like she's a new leader. She hit the ground running. And I hope you're going to take a little bit of time this morning, Kabrina, just to tell us about Midlands Mediation and why this organization exists and what you do within the organization. I know that, one of the things I learned about you sort of early on is that she is a big capacity builder. Professional development is huge for her. And when we were talking sometime during the pandemic, I don't know, early on, she said, well, I can offer some different trainings. And we've been thinking about this for a while, and we finally got on the calendar. So today is that day where she's going to really tell us, I guess, how to listen. I think we're going to be doing some listening, which is not always the easiest thing. We all want to participate. We want to talk. So how do we really listen better? So with that sort of very small intro to a very fascinating person, I'm going to turn the helm over to Kabrina and welcome you to this morning's session.
Awesome. Good morning, everybody. So thank you, Debbie. Thank you Together SC for this opportunity. So let me introduce Midlands Mediation Center first. So Midlands Mediation Center is a community mediation center. In 1964, in the Civil Rights Act, since Title 10 it is, the government decided that communities needed a space where they could go to resolve their conflicts. And you have to remember 1964 is many people didn't trust the government, right? And so they created these community spaces. They were called neighborhood dispute centers. They were called resolution centers and things of that nature. And so if you had a problem with your neighbor, instead of going to the courts to solve your problem, you could go to the neighborhood community center and y'all could sit down together with a mediator and help work out your issue and your problem. During the Reagan years, Reagan sent dollars to the states to help fund the community centers, but most of that money didn't flow down to the community centers. They went to other agencies. And so a group of community centers got together and they formulated the National Association for Community Mediation so that there'll be a national voice to help make sure that those centers are getting the resources that they need. When Jimmy Carter became president, Jimmy Carter wanted to make sure that they got into the community. So he began to send the funding straight pretty much through the Department of Justice. And so through the Department of Justice, those centers began to be funded to provide resources to the community so that when people have issues, instead of running to the courts, suing somebody, you could go to your community mediation center and they will work with you. The beauty of a community mediation center is that it is in your community, and the staff and the people that work there are your community. So the idea is that you train people in the community with mediation skills, facilitation skills. So when there are issues in the community is flooded with people who have the skill set to help walk people through conflict, help walk people through dispute, and help them to come up with a nonviolent resolution to their issues. And the amazing fact is that through science, we know for a fact that people have the capacity to resolve their own conflict. They don't need to go to a judge. If they just had an opportunity to sit together with the right skill set, they can resolve their own issues. Most mediations resolve. They don't get to the court. So what happened is, because it does work and it works extremely well, the court system began to outsource a lot of the cases that came through that could be mediated. So here in South Carolina, family court is one of the #1 places where you have to go to mediation before you can get a hearing date. Any issue that you are contesting with somebody else as it relates to child custody, child visitation, alimony, all that stuff, you're going to come to mediation first. And so many of the centers, because it's easy to do court mediation, many of the centers move toward that court annex kind of work. And so a lot of them lost connection with the community. And so, because funding comes through court annex, lots of funding. But when we think about communities, community needs the capacity to build their own ability to network and connect with the people in their community so that they can be self-determined to make decisions that relieve some of the systemic issues in the community by meeting with neighborhoods and meeting with elected officials, meeting with business owners. So our center is literally rooted in the community part of it to make sure, yeah, we do the community, we do the court stuff, but we want to do the community stuff. And there's not a lot of funding for the community stuff. So the more we do the court stuff, the more money we have to do the community stuff. So it's that balance that we have to hold to make sure we're doing both. But in the community, we believe that people have the capacity to resolve their own conflicts when they can collaborate together with many entities and come together and create collaborative solutions that literally create positive systemic change in our community. Housing is an issue. How do we get all the people that work in this housing environment to come together, to sit at the table and brainstorm? What is it that we can do? And then bring our elected officials, bring them into the conversation. What can we do? And then begin to work as a community to impact housing in our neighborhoods. it works. It has worked. Maryland is the best model of community mediation that I've seen. You'll also see it inside of Washington, D.C., and Washington State has an amazing community mediation center. So my heart and my passion is to bring more community mediation centers to the state of South Carolina, because it's only 2 right now. And so people travel in order to get access to the service when the state requires you to mediate in order to deal with your family issues. So that's what we do. We do mediation, we do facilitation, we do training, which is why I'm here today. And we also host conversations where people can come and have dialogue about different things. And yeah, I always tell people, community mediation is the best kept secret, but we're not secrets any longer. We will be working with President Biden on his initiative for peace building across the country. And I will actively be part of the Vice President Kamala Harris program when she does her conference on peace in America. So we're excited about the work that we're doing. There are several bills out there that involve teaching communities how to de-escalate issues, where I'm working with Congresswoman Gwen Moore on her bill that she has out there. I've spoken in Washington about a lot of things related to de-escalation. It is possible. It is something that we can do. People just need to have the skills. So thank you, Debbie, for giving me that moment to share the amazing work we do at Midlands Mediation Center. And I'm excited, and I look forward to partnering with lots of you all, because we believe that people have these skills, they can do so much better in the work of helping others to resolve their conflict. So thank you again. So let's get into this. Can you hear me now, right? I love talking about can you hear me now? Because we have lost our ability to listen. We don't listen. And so when I think about listening, I have to remind myself is that the reason we don't listen is because we haven't been taught to listen. So I want y'all to think about growing up in education, how much time was spent on listening skills, learning how to listen. And so what we're going to do right now is I'm going to ask you all to do me a favor. I already did my welcome. So I want to put you all in some groups, and I'm going to give you 2 minutes. And the person whose name is in the alphabet first is going to start. And I want you to take 3 words and describe who you are and explain why you chose those 3 words. You got 2 minutes to do it. The person that's listening, I need you to listen attentively. Don't take notes, just listen. Once they finish, you got 1 minute to tell them what you think you heard, because you're not sure if that's what you really heard. So you want to make sure you phrase it in a way is that I think I heard you say, or it sounds like you said, because you don't know if that's what they said until you repeated it back to them. And once you have repeated what you think you heard, that person then has an opportunity to correct, to clarify, or confirm what you said that they had said. So I love this part, because I'm like, any questions? People like, no. Then they get into the breakout room. What we supposed to be doing? So no, you're gonna do this right. So the first thing, because I want y'all to be thinking about your 3 words for yourself. Your 3 words for yourself. I want you in the chat to give me your organization and the location of your organization. If it's in the Belmont community, or it's in the Lake Carolinas, or it's wherever you're located at. I just need to know who I'm talking to and what community I'm dealing with. So if you can just drop your organization name and where you're located, that'll be amazing. While you think about 3 words that would describe you and why you chose those 3 words. And I see 1 chat pop. Oh, there we go. We starting to flood. I like to see the chat moving. I love to see the chat moving. Love to see the chat moving. So I see the Piedmont is in the house. Good job. All right. Pickens County, awesome. Horry County, yay. Spartanburg, upstate is doing their thing. Charleston, awesome. Irmo, Midlands is here. Okay. I see Low Country. I see upstate. I see the Midlands. Williamsburg County, awesome. Columbia, yeah, great job. Somerville, awesome. Awesome. All right, so we're going to start to do our magic here. I'm going to turn it over to the musician. not the musician, the magician, to make it happen, where you all get to go into these breakout rooms. And remember, you'll have 5 minutes total to your breakout room, 2 minutes. The speaker, whoever names begin first in the alphabet, is going to use 3 words to describe themselves and explain why they use those 3 words. And the other person is going to listen, not take notes, be attentive and listen to what that person has said, and then share back with them what you think you heard them say. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. I see y'all following. Isn't Zoom so rude to just kick you out? I mean, just throw you back in the midst of your conversation like you were really getting into it. So welcome back. Welcome back. So you can use the reaction feature where it has a raise hand feature, or you can put it in a chat. Which was harder, listening or speaking? Speaking.
Oh,
Also, anybody else? Anybody else? Oh, somebody said they love listening. Awesome. So to my speakers, what was the one thing that made it hard to be the speaker? What was the one thing that made it hard to be the speaker? Just 3 words, yeah. That's one of the things that's challenging. Filling the time, yes. We are so used to somebody interrupting us while we're talking that we're not used to just talking and nobody interrupts. Nobody gives us that, and you know this, So to be able to talk for 2 minutes, and nobody interrupt that conversation is difficult because we are not used to being heard, somebody actually listening to us. So my listeners, what was the challenge in listening? What were some of the challenges you found in listening? You can raise your hand. You can use the chat. Either way, we can still flow. Not making it conversational was so hard. Paraphrasing, yes. No note. That's right. There was no note taking. Thank you, Lynn. Yes, please share, Lynn. You're muted, though. You're muted. Got to unmute. You're talking up a storm, but you're muted.
Not
there you go.
When you heard something that appealed to you or
thank you.
Yeah, not being able to respond. Cindy, muted. There we go. Thank you. Not being able to respond to something, it wasn't hard. Yeah, it was a yes. And so thank you, Lynn. So in this exercise, what we discover is that listening is a skill, and it's something that you have to do intentionally. And when we've done these exercises in other spaces, what we discovered is people recognize, oh my God, my children are trying to talk to me and I'm not listening, because we're so busy, our brain is doing some work, right? And so I want to say thank you all for the courage to participate in that. And so hopefully I can do this. In here, what we want to talk about is, can you hear me now? And the exercise you just went through was called active listening. It was literally being there to hear somebody and to ask some questions of them and to clarify that you made sure you understood what they were saying. We put a little twist in there because we didn't allow you to interrupt them, and we didn't allow you to say anything while they were speaking. And that's a little twist inside of active listening. But the idea was so that you would pay attention to them in order to hear them. And I hope y'all heard the I think I heard you say, because oftentimes we tell people you said, and that wasn't what they said. That's what you heard, but it wasn't what they said. And sometimes we believe people have said something, but we hear them in the context of who we are versus in who they are. And therefore we misunderstood what they were saying, because what they said meant one thing to us and what they were telling you meant something else to them. So gotta learn how to actively listen. And then I wanted to talk about some ethical dilemmas that we have because of our lack of listening, because sometimes we haven't communicated effectively with people so that they understand what it is that we're expecting and what they should be expecting from us. And it causes some really It actually causes conflict and some difficulties because we really didn't listen. And then I want to invite you all, hopefully, if I can get this far, to create an opening statement to introduce your work to others. And in an opening statement in which you're consistent is something like your elevator speech, but making sure in that speech you're identifying what you're bringing to the table and what your expectations are of the other person, so that they can hear that, understand that, and communicate that. And so when we talk about active listening skills, I love this. 80% of what we're doing every day involves some form of communication. And most people believe the largest form of communication is speaking. But the largest form of communication that we're involved in is actually listening. And I talked about earlier, when we go to school, we spend more time teaching children how to read and write. And we do spend some time with speaking, but we don't spend no time when it comes to listening. How do I know? Because I went and researched it. I wanted to know, is that true? And I went and looked at the core curriculum. The only time listening is a core learning skill is in kindergarten. So the first time we teach children to listen, and then we don't talk about it no more. And so people grow up really not developing listening skills because it has not been taught throughout their days. And if depending on the neighborhood they live in or the family that they grow up with, some people just don't have conversations with one another. And so they don't develop that ability to hear people or to make sure that they're hearing what they think they heard. So I think this is a shocking number to understand. So that's one reason we spend most of our time listening, but we're not skilled in listening. The other reason we have poor listening skill is that we think faster than someone can speak. So what happens is while somebody is talking, your brain is doing a whole bunch of other stuff. It is literally, it's filling in the gaps. You add an assumption to what you think you heard. You putting in your perception, your cultural biases are popping in and all this other stuff. And so when people talk to us, we're talking at like 125 words per minute, but we listen at like a 400 words per minute. So it's only 75%. We're doing something else with our brains. So we're not there. And so we are filling in the gap. So we're not hearing. We have to be intentional to listen because our brains are functioning and working and doing what they need to do. So to really pause, and that's what the exercise did. It made you stop and literally listen to the person. Because technically, somebody's talking, we're probably checking an email, we're looking at Google, we're all over the place because we can hear them while we multitask, but are we really listening to them? So learning to listen requires a skill set. Anybody ever seen this symbol before? You can use the thumbs up, or you can put Y in the chat. Just let me know if anybody's seen this symbol before. This is some people say Japanese, some people say Chinese, but it is a symbol for listening. And I know when I grew up, the only thing they said I needed to listen was my ears, because you listen with your ears. But what they teach in other cultures is that listening isn't just your ears, it's all of you. You got to bring everything to the table in order to listen to someone. So in this culture is that you have to be present. You have to be fully present to hear somebody. You have to focus in on what that person is saying to you. You got to maintain that focus, and you got to feel in your heart what's being told. And then your brain, as I said before, you got to think about what you're hearing. And so it takes all of you to literally listen. And I love this symbol because it's a reminder that listening isn't just your ears, it's every part of you in that opportunity. So I would love to hear some thoughts about that. Have anybody ever thought about when it comes to, to listening that it takes all of you to be there in order to hear? In comments, anything I'm saying, raise hand feature, or we can do it in the chat. This is a chat group. I love it. Okay. So y'all feeling it, which is a good thing. That's a very good thing. All right. So I don't have much time. So if you get a chance, go to YouTube, and there's a guy named Julian Treasure. Let me do I love Zoom, y'all, because it lets you do neat things like this. Because what name did you say? Julian Treasure, right? And Julian Charger is on a campaign to learn to live to listen, living to listen, because he believes that people have lost the ability to listen. We hear everything, but we're not listening. And so he has this 5 ways of listening better, right? And which I've adopted. And one of those ways is how we position ourselves to listen. And then he talks about separating, training your ear to hear. And those five things down there: silence, take 3 minutes every day and just be silent so that you can listen to what's going around. And then take time to pinpoint something that you hear. Like when you're brewing coffee in the morning, try to listen to the water dripping through the filter. Just to be intentional to hear that, because what it's doing is tuning your ears so that you can hear. So being intentional to take time to do that, and then find those sounds that you probably never pay attention to, like the air conditioning in the background or the sound of the computer humming, those sounds, because you're training your ears to listen. And so I want to go through a couple of these things that he talks about. And let me erase that out of there so that I don't take that little box with me when I move on to the next slide. So listening position, we have active, passive listening. We have reductive listening and expansive listening. We have critical listening, and we have empathetic listening. So when we look at these, when we talk about an active listener, and I just said it earlier, active listening involves listening and reacting, which indicates you understand what was said. And that's why we paraphrase. We summarize what someone said before we start putting comments in as to what they meant by what they said, but we really don't know if that's really what they said. We know that's what we think we heard, but was it really what they were saying? And a passive listener is basically just hearing something without responding to it. You just listening. No feedback, no questioning. You move from other topics. I mean, it's not involved that much. You're just hearing it. Like some of you may be passively listening to this wonderful workshop that I'm doing, right? You probably on your computer, check your email, letting the sound flow through your mind, and that's fine, because you are hearing it. But to listen means that you literally begin to engage, you give some feedback, and you make sure that you heard what you think you heard. So that's the difference between active and passive listening. And so when we're reductive listening, what we're doing is listening for the bottom line. So if we're reductive in listening, we're really not listening to what people are saying. We're trying to get to the end of it. So we have determined in our mind that when they started this, they got something that they want at the end. So I just need them to get to the bottom line. But when we're expansive listening, we're listening with someone. In other words, we're in it. All of us are, the whole being is there because we want to hear exactly what is it that they're saying, because we want to understand it, want to be present with it. Critical listening, when we talk about listening critically, it literally means that we are listening to evaluate what we hear, to gauge the value of the information, to separate our facts and opinion, and to form our own opinion of what we think we heard. And so I'm really listening so I can flow this out and understand, the important facts of it and all the information that goes with it. And when I'm listening empathetic, I want to support the feelings that I'm hearing for the speaker so that I can help them feel safe, so that they can open up and they can share freely without my judgment on the part of the listener, right? So I'm listening with my whole heart so I can literally hear what it is that they're saying, right? And so being critical is I'm listening for that information. I want to separate facts, and I'm preparing myself to respond to this from a very critical state. But if I'm listening empathetically, then I'm hearing somebody so that I can support them and I can help them so that they can feel safe, right? And so they can open up and feel free that they can share what it is that they want to share with me, because I am listening. And those cues that we give, the verbal cues of actually saying, yes. And then people are amazed when you repeat back to them what you think you heard, because it is a formula that says, wow, they were actually listening to me. They actually valued the words that I was saying because they took time to give them back to me, right? And so this is a thing that I keep in the back of my mind when I'm listening, because we have to practice it. I have to pay attention. and I have to show verbal appreciation. And those are those cues, those nodding of our heads. Yeah, but we have to be careful with those because sometimes they distract the speaker and they don't get their full thought out because we interrupted them with a verbal cue. So we have to be very intentional with those. But then always repeat what you think you heard. And then ask questions so that you may get clarity so you understand what exactly was it that you heard. And so the word rasa is part of a fruit's essence. The essence within a fruit is the flavor that brings it. So if you can remember that this is the flavor that comes into the process of listening. So I would love to know, what are some of y'all thoughts? What are some of y'all thoughts about what I've shared thus far? Oh, thank you, Kearney. Yes, we don't teach the kids. And then we be like, why these kids act like, because you ain't taught them how to listen. They don't know how to listen. They have no idea how to listen. Anybody else?
I have a question.
Yes.
And you know, sometimes it's hard to listen if you're not interested in what you're about to hear. Like, how do you overcome that?
Why are you in the conversation? If you if you have no interest in what the person is saying, why are you in the conversation? So evidently they're speaking to you because it is something of interest to them. So it is that empathetic hearing, because if it's not of any importance to you, then they're sharing this because it's important to them. So being able to come to that space and recognize, okay, this ain't got nothing to do with me. They just need me to hear. They just need somebody to listen to them. And sometimes people do just need you to hear them. I think I see Maria's hand.
Yeah, I was just going to comment when you had the active and passive listening columns up. All I could think about is I became a mother later in life, and I love hearing people's stories. I love listening. I love engaging with them. But when you become a mom and you're at the playground and you're trying to watch your child while you're trying to also listen to another mom who might be struggling with something, it is so hard to walk that line. It is so hard. And you feel so, I'm just constantly interrupted, right? Constantly interrupted. And I almost kind of want to put a sign on that says, okay, I'm happy to listen to you, but right now it's going to be passive listening because I'm trying to do two roles at once. But that was just an observation, just a thought that came to mind.
And my thing is, self-awareness is so amazing when we recognize, like, oh my God, I haven't, or I have, or, oh, that's what I've been doing. I didn't know that was something I was doing. I think knowledge is power. When we know, my grandfather always said, when you know better, you do better. And so when we learn to know better and understand these skills and techniques, we do better with our listening. We really become, and you're passive at that time. And that's exactly what I would say. You know what? I really want to be here for you, but I can't because I'm watching my son, but I'm hearing everything that you're saying. So letting them know up front, I'm hearing you, but somebody don't put your hand back down, come back up. I'm hearing you, but I can't right now because I have something else going on. Yes, there it is. I saw you. Julie, yes, go ahead.
Well, this is just so great, but I was going to kind of respond to that. And then you said that you really said it. It's just that the idea of being able to understand my listening so well that I could say to somebody, oh, I am not ready to listen to you the way I want. If you need to just speak and let me just sit here and listen while I'm doing some other stuff, I'm good at doing that now. If you need me to really be wrestling with you with some ideas about what talking back and forth, then we're going to have to make some time. So I really appreciate that little difference.
And I'm celebrating you because, yes, communication is key, because we think it's okay that somebody's talking to us and we're doing other things. That's not okay. So let people know, I really want to give you the space that you need, but because this is going on right now, can we schedule some time? Sometimes they talk about even when we get into conflict and we can't devote the time that's necessary to really deal with it, to acknowledge that, you know what, this is going to take some time. So what I'm going to ask is that we pause right now and let's set some time where we can sit down and really discuss this, versus pretending like, okay, yeah, that's fine. It ain't fine. It's not. And it's going to come back, and it's going to come back with vengeance. So pause, exhale, and say, you know what, this is really important. And I hear your passion. So why don't we do this? Let's get some time out so that we can come back and address this, and where we have more time to really sit down and listen and exchange ideas and think about a better way to move forward. Because one, you acknowledge that you heard me. Okay. You heard me. Okay, somebody wave their hand. Okay, I can't see names. Okay. Yes, Leah.
So I have a question more like if I know I'm going to be sharing something and I need to talk to a group and it's going to be news they don't want to hear.
Mhm,
So the listening is definitely going to be not the greatest
mhm.
because they're going to hear part of what I say and that's it. And they're not going to hear the reasons, the justification. How, as the communicator, do you help the person on the receiving end of listening to bad news?
Acknowledge it upfront that it's going to be bad news that you feel. I feel, because you don't know. It may be good news for some people. I know when they was laying off people at Xerox, that was good news to me because I wanted to go home and spend more time with my son and I would have unemployment. And they may have thought it was bad news, but it wasn't bad news. It was really good news for me. In that season, I needed that. So just say, I feel, because you don't know. You really don't know how they're going to receive it. So I think this may be some bad news, but I really need you all to hear this. And I really need you, if you have questions while I'm sharing this, if you can just jot them down and allow me an opportunity at the end to come back and address those questions. I may not have all the answers, but I want you to know I need you to hear this, and then I need to hear you. Now, the worst thing in the world is to give somebody bad news and then not be present to hear their response to the news that you just given, and not to be defensive, just to be empathetic, because you know you just gave bad news. So you need to be present just to hear their responses. And some things, you know what, we really can't address that right now. So if you give us a moment, we'll take in your information and we'll respond back to it later. But make sure you respond back later. I promise y'all, the things I'm saying right here can reduce a whole bunch of conflict. And it's just nothing more than learning to listen. All right. Did I see somebody else? I think y'all flooded me with chat. I can't do both. I want to so bad, but it looks so good. So what we're gonna do now, I'm gonna give you 5 more minutes. And guess what? We're gonna do the same exercise, but we're gonna switch. The person that was listening last time gets to be the speaker, and the person that was speaking gets to be the listener. And Emily, you're gonna have, we're gonna put you with somebody that really didn't have an opportunity to be in the full experience, and we had some other people join in. So let me go back over, let me go find my information so I can go back over the exercise so you all don't get lost in this. I'm gonna actually put the whole thing in the chat. Isn't that amazing? I can do that for real. Okay, here we go. So to everyone. So you're going to have 2 minutes as the speaker to share words that describe you and why you chose those 3 words. You get 2 minutes to do that. As the listener, you have 1 minute to share what you think you heard the person said after their 2 minutes is up. But you cannot take notes while they're talking, and you can't do all that extra feedback. All that. Just listen. Just listen. And then once you finish sharing what you think you heard them say, they need to get another minute to correct, to clarify, or confirm what the listener stated. Any questions about this exercise? All right, the magic man is about to take you away. We'll see you later. Bye-bye. I had an opportunity to do the exercise a second time. So I would love to know which was harder this time, because now you've had an opportunity to do both roles. Now that you think about it, which one was harder? Was it harder being a speaker or was it harder being a listener? And you can unmute yourself, raise your hand so I know where we're going. Listening. Okay, I see you, Kathy. Thank you so much. Harder, Angela. Okay, listening. Okay. Listening became a little bit more harder. And did listening become a little bit more harder because now you learned some techniques and you were trying so hard and you learned those techniques? That was your real stop time. But to realize those techniques, inside of there. Yeah, isn't this amazing? I see a lot of listeners, a couple of speakers, but just taking the time to listen. So my other question is, now that you heard some of the information about the different styles and positional listening, you understood the RASA, the importance of clarifying what you think you heard and that person's feedback to let you know, yeah, that's what I said. No, that's not quite right, but this is what I meant. That was clarity. If y'all got to that point, do you see the value in that? And even in regular conversation while you all were out, one of the questions was, when you're talking about groups coming together and you got all these different communication styles and all this other stuff coming to the table, how do you work through the listening? And you have to know who's at the table. I mean, I do a whole series on who's at the table because people don't come alone. They come with a whole bunch of baggage. They come with their own cultural backgrounds. They come with their own work experience. the things that they've experienced in the past that impact them in this present moment, they come with so much along with this. And so you have to take time to do self-awareness to make sure that they know who they are. What's their emotional intelligence? What's their political compass? What is their conflict style? So learning all those things, when you know who's sitting at your table, then you know how to engage them in conversation and how to work with it and work through it. And so my time is up. I thought I had one. So I'm probably, this is my problem. I'm going to get with Debbie and we're going to work out a part 2 to this so that we can get to the other part of it, because I enjoyed the listening part. I love talking about listening because I believe we must develop those skills to listen better, to hear one another better, and to understand how important it is to be heard and to allow people. So I got like 4 minutes now. So what I need y'all to do really, really quick for me, I need you to give me at least 2 takeaways that you got from today's session. What are 2 takeaways, 2 things that you take away? And if anybody has any questions, because I didn't get to the rest of it, just unmute yourself, raise your hand so I can see where you are and we can call on you. All right, I see you, Julie.
Quick with a hand raise. I really appreciate that I learned how to listen, and I also learned how to speak, because when I was in the second group, my speaker was very good at using the words and being clear about what they were saying. And so I think it really goes both ways. I see that as I become a better listener, I will also learn how to be a better speaker.
That's, oh my God, Judy, that is so awesome. That's so awesome. Abby, somebody said you got a great something to share. Go ahead, Abby.
Yeah, I had a question earlier about guiding people who tend to dominate conversations to practice more engaged listening, and if you had any suggestions for that.
Oh, we have a whole thing on difficult people in conversation. And what let me laugh is because I remember my staff, whom I love so dearly, we did the workshop with an organization and we were talking about the difficult people in conversation. And she was like, oh, that's me. Oh my God. That is so me. And so I think one of the things is always to literally say to that person, we hear you. And if you just pause for one moment and allow others the opportunity to share, and then we'll come back, because we're hearing exactly what you're saying. And so we're gonna put it in parking lot, and then we're gonna allow and hear some other people in their comments, and then we'll come back if we didn't get clarity inside of that. But acknowledging that you heard what they said, and the best way to let people know you heard what they said is what? Paraphrasing it, telling it back to them. I think I heard you say da 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 da, and that's a really good thing. So if you just hold for a minute, let's hear what others have to say. And so giving that thing. But I tell you what's the best thing for those people is ground rules in conversation. Before you even start the conversation, these are our ground rules. Is there anything else you need that will make you comfortable in this space? And one of the ground rules in conversation is that speak once before you speak twice. So speak once, allow others to have an opportunity to come in before you speak a second time. And so if that's a ground rule and we all agree that that is the ground rule. Now don't give people ground rules and don't get their agreement to the ground rules. Does anybody have any objection to any of these ground rules? Does any of this cause you to be comfortable? Is there anything that you would like to see added? Anything we need to take away because you can't live by that ground rule? So once I get everybody in the conversation to agree that these are our ground rules, this is how we will engage each other. Okay, we got our ground rules. So now we know how we're going to operate together. No discomfort, nobody, everybody good? Okay, now let's go through and confirm. Do you concur that these are the ground rules that we're going to be guided by? Yes, 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 yes. You only have to do it once a year. And every meeting you come up, remember our ground rules. Remember our ground rules. Just keep them before people. That way they know what the expectation is. Abby, I hope that helped.
Yes, thank you. That's great.
Okay, how to keep someone on track. I have a coworker that Gear's doing every conversation. We lose focus. And oh my God. Okay, y'all need to come to my facilitation class because that is exactly it. They go down a rabbit hole, and everybody stop following them down the rabbit hole, right? And so what you have to do once again is identify, I heard what you said, and that sounds really important. So let's take a note. I'm gonna write this down here. and I'm gonna put a pin in it. And once we go through this, then we're gonna come back and see how we can address this. Because right now we want to focus in on and identify what that thing is that you really want to stay focused on. But acknowledge you heard them. Repeat what you think you heard them say, and make sure that is what's important to them for you all to come back to later on. And so that way you can address that. Yeah, I hope that helped, Angela. I hope that helped.
Well, this is just amazing, Kabrina. I hate to even stop you because this is just so, I knew when we were planning this was going to be one of my favorite sessions, and I so appreciate it. The one thing I want to ask you is, you say you do training. Can these different nonprofits reach out to your group for support and training?
Can. They sure can. And check out our calendar, because we have things that'll be coming up, especially after January. I'm trying to think of the name of my organization. I'm so bad right now.
Midlands Mediation?
Yeah, it's Midlands Mediation. I put it in the chat.
Well,
And I
great.
can tell you all, I'm in Charleston today. We're training MUSC in a refresher course in mediation. So, but I had promised Debbie that I was going to do this today. So I want to make
Oh,
sure I
wow.
started this, and then I'm going to go over to that training. I hope today has made a difference in the way that you listen now and hear others, but not only in the way you listen, as someone said, the way you speak, because sometimes we're not clear in the message that we're sharing with others. And so I promised part 2, because part 2 is important to me, because a lot of time we provide services to people and we have not communicated clearly the full expectation of what it is that we're going to do, how long we're going to be there, and what's going to happen when we leave, and making sure that people are prepared for our departure and our separation, and that is clear to everyone and everyone accepts it. So thank you all so much for indulging me. I went 2 minutes over. I apologize, because I know we all got tight calendars. Have a great day. Enjoy your day. Thank you so much. Much love to you.
Thank you so much, Kabrina. I know you're seeing all sorts of great comments in the chat box, and you and I are going to get on each other's calendars for the next session, because there's no doubt we have we need to hear more from you. So thank you so much. Everyone have a great day. Keep looking out for your 4 Good Connections newsletters, and please join one of our peer networks. Love to have you participate in those groups. So thank you, everybody.